So I wanted to show you around my Dwarf army for Kings of War. I put it together about 7 years ago for the second edition of Kings of War, and now I'm playing the third edition. I thought I'd get it out again and see what needs to be changed, if anything, and just have a little look through it. So I put it together with a real budget. The models I've been using for it are EM4 plastic dwarves. They are probably the cheapest 28mm plastic models you can buy. They make orcs and dwarves. Monopose, they work out. To be honest, when I put this together, they worked out about 16 pence each. They've gone up a bit now. They're about 25, 26 pence each now if you buy them, but still really cheap. And again, they make a spear dwarf. They make one with an axe, and they make one with a crossbow as well. And I've used, as you can see, I've got quite a lot of spears in my army, which in Kings of War are called bulwarkers. I'll show you this Horde first. Okay, there you go. So I've used the basic dwarf miniature. For this unit, I've added, I think these shields might be from Fireforge miniatures. They're these sort of collection of medieval heater shields. A little bit of terrain in the background, which I think might be from Lord of the Rings sprue, I'm not sure. A bit of the old Games Workshop trees you can see there. And the paintwork is pretty sort of quick and effective. It's just base coats, and I think this is Army Painted Quick Shade, pretty sure. Cork base, few flowers, bit of grass. The bases make all the difference, I think. Bases, contrast, consistency, I think, are the main things that make an army work on the table. And I think this works to that extent, yeah. What else we've got? We've got another couple of regiments of spears. You can see these ones have got round shields. These round shields were from the Ravel kit, the Viking ship kit, and it comes with loads and loads of shields to arrange along the sides of the Viking ship, and they are pretty much the right sort of scale. So I had one of those kits lying about, and I pinched all the shields from it. You can see I did that with this regiment back here as well. So these in Kings of War are ironclads. So the models themselves are actually double-handed axes. They're holding the axe, really long shaft on the axe, and they're holding it with both hands. But if you put a shield covering the lower hand, then it looks pretty much like they've got a shield in one hand, an axe in the other. I think that works well enough. And if I wanted to add a unit of shield breakers, I think they're called, that have just the double-handed weapon, and I just leave the axes off. It's simple as that. What else we've got? We've got some sharpshooters over here. Sharpshooters are on sort of cavalry bases, 5 to a troop, and I use the crossbow dwarves for these. The crossbows are really sort of small and strange, and they're easy to trim off. And then I just replaced the crossbow bit with these. I'm not sure. They might be. Are they wood or are they plastic? They're either bits of carefully trimmed cocktail stick, or they might be plastic cake pop sticks. I think these are cocktail sticks actually. And then the shields they're standing behind, sort of the mantlet type thing, is just made from coffee stirrers, matchsticks. Quite simple. Behind there, here we are. This is the steel behemoth, which I call the war shed. It's really just made from the wheels. I think at one point at a War Games show I bought a great big sprue, or like MDF sprue of various different cart wheels that I've been using for years. The rest of it is made from plasticard, coffee stirrers, bits of other kits. The sort of great big plough thing on the front is actually part of, it's a tool, it's a grout remover. We were ripping out an old bathroom, and so I had this plastic grout remover, and I thought that'll be just this thing, so I cut it up, stuck on it, painted it. I think it looks pretty good. So yeah, that's the war shed. What else we've got? So over here, these count as Brock Riders. Brock Riders in the official Mantic model range are dwarves riding badgers. The dwarves don't have any chariots in their list, so I think this is just about acceptable in terms of proxying. I can explain to my opponent what they are. There aren't any, as I say, there aren't any chariots in the dwarf list, so it shouldn't cause too much confusion. Anyway, I've just used, as you can see, I've used old Games Workshop plastic wolves, and then I had these chariots made, I seem to remember. This is going back a bit. I think I drew up some plans and sent them to war bases, and they made them for me. And then these little chariots. I think that's what I did. Yeah. Although actually the yoke bit, or whatever you call this bit, doesn't look very familiar. Perhaps I just had the bits at the back made for myself. Not entirely sure. I think if I was making this army now, I might find a slightly better proxy for the Brock Riders. Anyway, I think they look okay. Behind them we've got the standard bearer, fairly straightforward conversion from a spear dwarf, as you can see. And then here, I used to use him as a berserker lord with the wings of honey maize. Well, I'm not sure what I'll be using him this time, but yeah, in Kings of War, one of the sort of magic artifacts you can buy is wings of honey maize, which gives your character the ability to fly. It doesn't change their base size, so you can either stick some wings on your figure, or you can do something like this, this is an old Matchbox model of a hot air balloon, a bit of barrel. I think those are mechanisms from Crossbowman kit or something, and it looks pretty well like someone in a tiny little hot air balloon flying around the battlefield. So that works well. I've just put a tiny grey spot on one side of the base to give an indication of which is the front, because otherwise it's not hugely obvious. Okay, what else we got? This is a model that actually isn't made of plastic. It wasn't particularly cheap. I think, actually, at the time I think I bought him, he was about £3.60, which I think still counts as pocket money prices. I'm sure if he's still available, it's gone up now. Right, so the plastic miniatures were produced in the 90s for a game called Fantasy Warriors, as I understand it, which was a big box of plastic figures, orcs and dwarves, and the game was designed to compete at the time with Warhammer Fantasy Battle. It didn't do too well, I don't think, but the models are still really useful. So the range of dwarves was designed by Nick Lund, and this metal dwarf on bear is one of those. The plastic range was designed to match this metal range, but the plastics were actually designed by Mark Copplestone, who's a very well-known sculptor even today, and he actually does a lot of the metals for the Oathmark range of dwarves. So I think if I'm going to expand this army, I'll be looking more closely at the Oathmark metal dwarves that I think match the plastic Fantasy Warriors dwarves really well. And since the Fantasy Warriors game sort of sank, EM4 bought the inventory, I expect, and probably the moulds for those plastic dwarves and orcs have been producing them ever since. But it's interesting to think about where the design came from and what those sculptors are doing now. It's you can often find, I think, commonalities of design over the years, depending on who's designing the range. So that's a useful thing to think about for the future, because I think I would quite like to expand this army. So excuse the washing machine making sounds. Okay, So what else have we got? Oh, behind there are some cannon. Let's bring one of these out. Got 3 of these cannon. I've only just added the crewmen to these cannon. They were without crew for many years. So the crew here, we've got a spear dwarf who's been converted to have that spongy thing on a stick, whatever it's called. And we've got an axe dwarf that's been converted to have the flaming torch. The cannon itself is made from coffee stirrers, MDF wheels, and the barrel is the ferrule from a plastic kid's paintbrush. You can buy these paintbrushes. I think I usually buy them a pack for £1. It's got 4 of these big paintbrushes in and then about 10 of the really small ones. They're really useful for applying varnish and so forth. Let's hope that the washing machine has stopped making noises now. Okay, and then towards the back we've got our, here we are, elementals, earth elementals. So these are one of the things, I bought a couple of these at a charity shop for £1 each. These are replica Lewis chessmen. And I thought they'd make perfect greater earth elementals. The other one, I green stuffed a beard onto. I'm not particularly pleased with the beard on that, but it does make it a little bit more like a statue of a dwarf. And then for the regular earth elementals, who are small and have a smaller base, I actually found on eBay a cheap chess set that had all the figures in, and I made 2 sets with those. That represents 3 big lads. And that seems to work pretty well for the base size, I think. Got 2 of those. And then if you're going to have stone earth elementals in your army, you're going to need a stone priest. This again is another non-EM4 model. This is a Reaper Bones dwarf wizard. We used to call him Grimdelf for obvious reasons. There we go, nice and simple paint job. And then at the back, so this at the time was an allied unit. I don't really approve of allies in Kings of War. This counted at the time as an elf dragon, and to sort of unlock it I needed, this was a unit of forest shamblers, and really I just made these so that I could include the dragon. That was a pretty cheesy choice at the time. An elf dragon was one of the most powerful units in the game, but I honestly didn't build this in order to take advantage of that. I didn't win very many games with this army, I have to say, but I just I wanted to make a dwarf airship, and so that was really the only way I could think of proxying it in. So yes, this airship, it's got detaches from its base. Let's have a look. Let's get back a little bit. Excuse me. Right, there we go. So the balloon is made from the plastic finial of a fancy curtain pole, painted up. We've got various other bits on there. There's a little part from a cheap sailing boat kit. We've got bits of pen, bits of string, bits of coffee stirrer, good old coffee stirrers. The cannon on the front there, the sort of steam cannon thing, well, that's clearly a golf tee, as you can probably see. A couple of crewmen, various other little bits and pieces, and then the sail is just made from plasticard. Yeah, so I don't think I'm going to be including this model in my army in this edition of Kings of War. As I say, I don't really like the idea of using allies, particularly not when you're using allies just to plug a gap in your army list. I think you should play the army as it is written. That's my feeling anyway. I don't mind at all other people playing with allies, that's fine. But this is just something for myself. Um, yeah. So one thing I do need to do is I think I need to increase the base sizes of my greater earth elementals. That might leave them looking a bit small on their bases, so perhaps I need to look around for other slightly larger Lewis Chessmen replicas. There are lots about. There's some on eBay for not very much money, so perhaps I'll be doing that. Perhaps I'd like to add some more dwarves with guns. Yeah, I am in the middle of another dwarf army using Mantic models, so it seems a bit foolish to start adding models to this one, but might have some fun with it. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.